So today we're going to do macro photography, and it's going to be quite interesting because I set it up a little rig and it's pretty cool. I just want you to see how easy it is to do macro photography, and I'm going to take you into Lightroom after and show you how to edit it and all the cool things you can do. So right now I'm going to demonstrate everything that I have so you can basically mimic these settings at home, and basically things around your house can end up being fun things to do macro photography with. Okay, so this is everything that I have set up for my macro setup. I have the ETTL Godox flash, and then I have a home computer light shining down on my subject, and I put some tinfoil with a reflector side on it, so when the ETTL flash shines and shoots off, it's going to reflect off this light and illuminate this part of the subject. It's kind of like a highlight, and you need as much light as possible when it comes to macro photography. So this is what I'm utilizing for at home. I'm using some tinfoil, I grabbed a peach, a dead bug that I found somewhere, and a pine cone, and a home office light. So that is what I've used up, and a little table. This is my rig for my macro photography. So these are the back of my flash settings. I'm using the TT685C for Canon, and basically I have it on ETTL on manual zoom at 105 millimeters. I have it for +3 in exposure, channel 2 because my flash on camera is set for channel 2, and I have it set for a slave, and it's on channel A, or slave A, sorry. And that is the settings for the flash. It's just a Godox flash, and that's what I'm using to illuminate the subject, because in macro photography lighting is key. So this is the back of my camera settings. I have it set for 1/200th of a second at f11 because I want the whole subject to be in focus, and I have it shut down my ISO down to 100 because I want my picture to be as little grain and noise as possible. As you can tell, it's in manual focus right here, and I have it on continuous shoot, but I set a 10-second timer in the continuous shoot, basically so you can take a bunch of photos at the same time without actually touching the camera, because when you touch the camera it gives you image shake, and when you're in manual and you don't have it in autofocus or anything, it gets kind of jolty, or no image stabilization. So basically this is on a tripod, and I don't need to handheld it, so I'm going to delay the shutter, and I have it for 10 seconds so I know the camera is not going to be moving in that 10 seconds. So this is the 105 Sigma macro. It's the DC HSM. I have it set on with this so the light doesn't cause any lens flares. This is the lens hood. I've attached it to this lens, and it's designed for this lens. This lens does have image stabilization, but I've turned it off so the motor doesn't cause any shakiness in camera. And then I also have autofocus set to manual, and I have my focal point set to full so I can get as much in detail as possible. And this is the 77D, and I'm triggering my flash on camera to trigger the ETTL, because remember I have it set to slave, and this is going to trigger off the slave. So that's my setup with a Manfrotto Monopod, and to get as much of the concept. So that's what I'm gonna. This is me on my macro setup. I have it dialed in on my manual focus. I put it in live view mode so I know exactly where I want to focus. It is on the bug, and then I use my EVF or OVF optical viewfinder to dial on the bug and lock in focus. So now focus is locked in. I'm going to sit down patiently and press the shutter button, and remember, because I hit continuous 10-second delay, I will get to pick from the best picture, and it's on a 10-second delay so the camera won't be shaking when I take the photo. I'm going to press the shutter and remove my hand from the camera. Just like that, easy peasy. So I'm gonna go into my camera and GIMP and see if the photos turned out. Yeah, they did. They all turned out very good, and I got the exactly as I wanted it in the frame, and I got my 10 photos, so I have a lot to choose from, and now it's time to edit. Okay, so this is in Lightroom of the product of the macro photography. This is the bug on the peach that I took pictures of, and this is just about to get really, really peachy because I'm gonna make this picture pop, and I'm gonna make this picture stand out, and it's gonna look pretty cool once I'm done with it. So basically I took some home things. I took a peach, I took a dead bug that I found from outside, some pebbles, and a pine cone to add some contrast to the background, and the pebbles to add some contrast and depth of field to the peach. So basically I put my focal point on the bug's head in camera and the optical viewfinder, and I selected my focal point and I selected the head of the bug. And then also the next thing that I did was put continuous shutter on a 10-second delay, so the camera wouldn't get any shake, and it was on a tripod, a Manfrotto tripod. So I'm gonna go into full edit mode, and I'm gonna edit this picture. Full screen mode, and I'm gonna edit this picture because I have the loop deck. So full screen mode. I really like this picture because it displays the bug's face really good. Focal point on the bug is pretty much dead on. So I picked F11 so you can get most of the bug in focus and most of the peach in focus with a little bit of the background blur, and my aperture was a little bit closed a little bit because the more closed your aperture is, the more focused the focal points are and the more focused the subject is in. So with macro photography, you tend to put it at F11, F8, and sometimes even F16 or F22, depending on how much you want in focus. So this is pretty good. I'm gonna start editing. So I'm gonna bring down the highlights because the middle and the middle of the page of the peach is blowing out, the top right hand corner of the peach, sorry. So I'm gonna bring down the highlights. And then you can also see when I bring down the highlights, you can see the peach fuzz in the peach. So I'm going to bring down the whites a little bit, cause a little bit of surreal. I'm going to bring down the exposure just a little bit so you can see that. And then I'm going to crank up the shadows so you can bring in more detail of the bug, of the subject. And I'm going to turn down the blacks just a little bit to give it that punchier cinematic look. Now the clarity I'm going to turn up to make it a really clear, peachy subject, and to make the peach stand out and the peach fuzz. Now I'm going to add a little bit of texture to make that peach fuzz really come alive. So the peach fuzz is definitely coming alive, and so is the bug. The bug is becoming more in focus because that texture button just adds that detail. It's a pretty good button, and I love that new feature that Lightroom added. So contrast. I'm going to up the contrast just a little bit, and then dehaze is going to bring down the backgrounds, and it's going to bring down the blacks to give it that cinematic look. Now the peach looks really peachy, but you're going to see how I'm going to deal with the peach in a couple of seconds. Temperature, I'm actually going to bring the temperature down and make it more of a warmer peach, and you'll see what I'm saying. So it's yellow. And then the tint, I'm actually going to bring the tint towards the purple, the magenta, and I'm going to make it more of a magenta picture, and it's going to be a really vibrant picture because I did that. The luminance, I'm going to turned the luminance down on the reds of the peach, so you can see that peach color just pop, and it adds a lot of detail of that peach on that. So now it's kind of a really certain type of feel that I'm going for of that peach. I'm making it kind of a surreal peach is what I kind of want. But you'll see why I want to make the peach surreal in a couple of seconds. Now saturation I'm going to leave, and everything else I'm going to leave. So I might bring up the shadows just a little bit because I want that bug to stand out. Okay, so that's what I did for that. I think I'm going to bring down the shadows, and that's what I like. So I'm going to go into screen mode, take it off full screen mode, and then I'm going to go into my adjustment brush, and I'm going to adjust. I'm going to go down to, let's see, I'm going to select the adjustment brush. I'm going to select the adjustment. I selected him, and I selected the subject with the range mask on luminance, and I'm going to show luminance mask on the page, and I'm going to basically color in what I want to objectify on this image. So I'm basically filling in the bug so I can see, okay, this is going to be a really that I'm going to make this bug pop so the bug stands out quite a bit. Now I'm going to turn up the sharpness of the bug, and I'm going to turn up the clarity of the bug. I'm also going to turn up the texture of just the bug. Now because I have this part highlighted, it is red, so everything in red is is the fine part of the details that I'm pulling out. Everything in red is affected by the right side of my panel here. Now I like that, and I'm going to select done to see what it looks like after I'm done using that adjustment filter. So I really pulled out the bug quite a bit. Now I'm going to go into my crop, because I'm going to show you what I meant, that the right side of that overblown out peach and that surrealness that I tried to get from this picture is going to show you what it looks like when I'm done. So I'm going to crop this. And when I crop, I pull out, the bug is going to get bigger, and I'm going to pull out more detail of that. Now I'm also selecting the rule of thirds on the bug, on its head. That's the bottom right third. And the rule of thirds is selected, so my focal point is the bug. And then you can see the pine cone in the background for a little bit of a distraction, but a little bit of texture, and it also resembles the depth of field that I've added to the subject. Now the peach is showing depth of field with the little pebbles I placed, so you can tell that it's round and circular. So the bug has been blown out. Now I'm going to select done, and you can see how I've added the rule of thirds to the bug with the pine cone in the background. Like you would never know that it's on a peach. But if you were clever enough and you guessed that it was on a peach, look what it looks like it's doing. It looks like it's having an afternoon snack. And there's nothing wrong with an afternoon snack from a bug. But anyways, this is the final result of my bug picture, of the macro shot. I hope, and then actually, I'm going to go down and adjust one more thing. I'm going to go into 1:1 after the macro, and you can see quite a bit of detail. You can see the hairs of the bug, you can see the little tiny eyes of the bug, and you can see everything on the bug in fine detail. Now, I like it like this, because this is my macro, and this is my editing style. So I'm going to remove chromatic aberration, and I'm also going to enable profile lens corrections. So you'll see the kind of lens corrections that are enabled after this is done. I guess that's it. So I'm going to go in full screen mode and show you what it looks like when I'm done editing. This is the picture. Isn't it peachy? Anyways, have yourself a nice day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, and I hope you enjoyed this macro do-it-yourself photography shoot. Ciao.